Today, what I'm talking about are 7 different things that the most successful attorney end up getting positions, end up getting business, and really have very successful careers from the time actually that they are in law school until that they're more senior. And why this webinar is very important for you is because it's going to show you, tell you what I've seen after 25 years of watching attorneys who do well and not do well in their legal careers. And that's in terms of getting jobs, in terms of advancement. And it really applies to people at all levels. If you're a law student, it applies to you. If you're a mid-level attorney, it applies to you. And it pretty much applies to everyone in the legal profession who may be looking for a position. This is a very important topic, and it will help you get jobs. It will help you understand why you may not be doing as well in your career. And it's just a very important topic. A couple other points relevant to this topic that I just wanted to bring up real briefly is I've seen attorneys fail miserably. I've seen attorneys do moderately well. I've seen attorneys do well. And then I've seen attorneys do extremely well. And I've been watching this, and I've been watching it for 25 years, and I've been watching what happens and why that happens. And so what I'm talking to you about today is a mindset, and it's a way of doing things that the best, for example, that I've noticed that legal recruiters by the end of the best are doing. I think that this topic, if you understand everything that I'm going to talk about today, and you listen and take notes, could dramatically improve both your job search and your career, what ends up happening to you in the practice of law. And the thing is that so many people in the legal profession don't know why they're not succeeding. They think that there's not job. They think that there's something wrong with other people, or that their qualifications aren't good enough. And so what I'm going to talk to you about today is a mindset that literally could transform your life and your career. And again, this is from what I've observed over 25 years. I've also been improving history. I've written books about this sort of thing. So I hope this webinar should be very helpful to you. So if you think about using a service is much different than a product, because when you buy a product, you know what you're getting. I was looking at houses this weekend, and in the closets, they had Hermes boxes, all this stuff. They try to suggest that there's some connection to the service, the product, and so forth, just by virtue of being there. And when you buy a car or something, if you buy a Mercedes, or you expect it to be a certain quality, and when you use a service, you really don't know anything. You don't know if you can trust the service. You don't know the quality of the service. Typically, you may be recommended the service, but you really don't know. And it's pretty scary. Like when you go to a doctor or you hire a lawyer, you really don't know what's going to happen in terms of the quality that you get. And again, if you hire an attorney or doctor or an accountant or a legal recruiter, for example, which most attorneys at some point in their career will try to do, you're going to have no idea about what the service is like. You could talk to your friends and say maybe they've got a job or something, but you have no way of what the service is like. And from where I'm sitting, I've used doctors that have been very poor and put me in a worse situation than I was before. I've used accountants that were bad. I've used attorneys that were bad. It is very scary. If you think about your own experience using a service, you really don't know exactly what you might receive. You don't understand the quality of the service. You don't understand a lot of things, and it can make a huge difference. Literally, you can die or go bankrupt or all these things based on the service you use. I mean, I've had tremendous problems using the wrong attorney. I've had tremendous problems using the wrong doctor. I've had tremendous problems using the wrong accountant. In contrast, I've had great things happen when I've used really good services. Anytime someone wants to use a service, if you're able to, you want to use the best person possible. Imagine sometime the police raided your house and accused you and you were locked up for murder, you would use the best attorney you could find with money. But just imagine it wasn't even true. There was no truth to it. You didn't understand why it happened. You would want to use the best service. So that if you use a really good service, it's really going to give you many more benefits that you wouldn't get using a service that wasn't as good. And so that's one of the reasons that people want to have a good service. And if you use the service that's not as good, it's like throwing money away. You're making like a financial mistake. And But one of the things I've noticed is every time someone I know has gotten very sick or has had some sort of a legal issue, they always talk about the person that gave them the service as if they're the very best at this. They talk about things like awards they got or certification. And people do this because this is the only way you have to judge whether or not someone is good at something. Very interesting to me also, I'll just throw this out there, that there's no system for ranking lawyers, meaning that you have no idea. There's no like point system or something, or some way to know who a really good lawyer is. The only way we typically know is based on the firm they're coming from and where they went to law school. It's very difficult for people to understand service. And so when you use the service, you have to figure out some way to judge how good they are. And when if you look at the legal profession, there's a tremendous number of lawyers and legal recruiters and so forth who attended great schools and are very bad at what they do. I'm sure you've run into bad lawyers and bad doctors. And I want to just give you a little bit of background about what happens when you go to a poor doctor. And I'm giving you this background because I think it's important to understand this in light of what happens when you use a bad lawyer, but most importantly, when you use a bad legal recruiter, and how these lessons will translate into what you can do with your career to be very good and to stand out as someone that is a good attorney and gets jobs and so forth. So I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I've seen very bad doctors, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So the first one of these 7 things that's going to make you a very good attorney and make you get jobs and make you get clients, it is very obvious, but you may not understand it. And this alone, if you understand this particular thing that I'm going to talk about, is going to transform your entire career. It's going to make it, everything that you do, it will make it worth it. But you will have more jobs, you will have more clients than anyone when you understand this point. So up until now, if you're here, you're going to learn something that is going to help you tremendously in your legal career. So years ago, I had this thing happen where I had this lymph node on my neck suddenly blew up and it became very large, like the size of a fist on my neck. It was pretty horrifying. And then I had a skin on one side of my face that was peeling off. Again, it was very strange. I didn't know what was going on. And so I live in Malibu, California, and there's a little clinic there that's part of UCLA. It's a larger clinic now, but it used to be much smaller. And so UCLA has got a very good reputation for one of the best hospitals in the country at one point. But I went to see a new doctor there. She graduated from University of Michigan. I was very proud of that. She told me that to recommend meeting her. She graduated from Michigan Law School. And so she was working in this clinic and she looked at this, whatever I had, and she thought it was just antibiotics. I needed to take antibiotics. Some sort of infection, even though it was the size of my fist, pretty alarming. She thought it was some sort of infection. So a few days later, this node continued to grow. And I went back to this doctor after I'd taken the antibiotics. And she started asking me all of these questions about whether I'd had sex or used intravenous drugs lately, which is just not the case, or that I'd been having unprotected sex with a man. I don't know what that had to do with anything. While my wife was waiting in the waiting room with the 2 of my children, which I think it's okay to assume someone's rare certain sexuality, but it was just odd. And then this thing kept growing, and I stopped by a day or so later, and she sent me to a hospital emergency room. And so I went there, and I sat around in the waiting room for several hours, just sitting there. And then when I was seen by a doctor, finally, because the lymph node was very painful, they put me on a morphine drug and decided to order some tests. And then whatever they did, they gave me something that the other thing, morphine started going down. And then after these tests, the doctors called, or the hospital called, they didn't really know what it was. And so they decided to send me to some specialists. So they sent me to a nephrologist who's a blood doctor. They sent me to a neurologist. They sent me to a cancer doctor, and then sent me to an arthritis doctor. And none of these doctors had any idea what was going on either. So over the next several weeks, this growth came back again, and I became very exhausted and tired and in a position where I was actually unable to work, which is not fun. And then I was on vacation in San Diego, and I went there for this condition. And then again, I was on vacation in Thailand and also went to the doctor for this. And then, so this kind of went on for a year. It was difficult to work. It was creating all sorts of stress and conditions. I was sitting with my wife after about a year, and she was in talking to a dermatologist, and there was just a young dermatologist. She was very smart. I think she'd gone to, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. But she was very excited about being a dermatologist, bouncing around and just very excited. And she'd grown up in Los Angeles and knew some people that my wife knew. But what made her so interesting is she was taking tremendous amount of effort talking to my wife about whatever she was doing with her face or dermatology. But when I told her what was wrong with me and she could see this issue, she took a real interest in it, and she was just very curious and what could be done. And she actually brought in another doctor she worked with, and she decided to order all these tests to figure out what was wrong, and then to do her best. And then she brought in a senior doctor. Then after a couple of days, she had me come back. And after a few days of research, calling doctors about this, their doctors, she just realized that I was doing Bikram yoga, which is 90-minute hot yoga. And that was just stressing my immune system and making me exhausted and causing all these problems. I guess it's causing this problem. So just one little thing, she was able to ask some questions about exercise and everything and figure it out. And that was it. And so she said, if I stopped doing that, everything would go away. And I did that, and nothing ever came back again. Just, that was it. It was just all I was doing was too much of this exhausting high yoga. And that's it. So there was no cancer. I was no cancer doctor. There was no arthritis. It didn't have AIDS. I was just pushing myself too much and hot room. And I like to exercise the things and push myself. And that was all I was doing wrong. And that's the whole cause of this mystery that took an entire year to figure out. It was figured out just by someone that took an interest in what was wrong with me. They just decided they were going to find out instead of saying it wasn't cancer and leaving it at that, or saying it wasn't arthritis and leaving it at that. The person just wanted to figure it out. So if you think about this, I was meeting with all sorts of experts. I was going to the hospital to be treated, and no one found out what was wrong because no one asked enough questions or tried to figure things out. I saw 10 doctors over the course of a year, was hospitalized for all this, was unable to work for certain periods of time. And if you think about this happened because the people that were doing the work didn't ask enough questions, they didn't do enough research, and they didn't take the time to do a good job. They looked at things from the lens of someone that assumes you're bad and doing sex and drugs, or someone that has cancer, whatever the way they looked at it, they just did that and then gave up. And they didn't care about asking more and more questions to figure out what could be done. And that was it. If you think about it, every specialist I saw had biases. The doctor in Malibu thought it could be AIDS or drugs because she was brand new into Los Angeles, and she figured, especially in Malibu, that the people there must be doing bad things. The cancer doctors assumed it might be cancer, and so they ordered a bunch of cancer tests. The neurologist assumed that it could be neurological. And here we go, like I was doing CAT scans and things, and I don't know what everyone does, but going in these machines and getting billed $3,000 or $4,000, an insurance company wasn't covering, and just the blood doctor did all these blood tests. I went to an arthritis doctor. They assumed it could be arthritis, and then the emergency room doctors just had no idea what it was. Give me morphine. If you think about it, now I just want you to understand this, because what I'm going to talk to you about right now, what this means is the difference between people that get good results in their career, the difference between people that clients want to hire, the difference between the people that law firms want to keep. And this is a very important point, because very few people are like this. And if you understand this, regardless of what you do with your career, whether or not you decide to leave a legal profession and open an ice cream store, which is something to do, or open a bike store, or become a consultant, or become whatever you want to do. You need to understand what I'm going to talk to you about right now. So the main thing separating the doctor from the others was that she cared, and she cared about the result she was going to get, and she took an interest in what she was doing. And she didn't just give up and stop looking. She took interest in it and did whatever she could to show she cared. And I think about this every day. I think about what a powerful concept this is. And it almost makes me cry, because this is incredible that people can do this. And there's people that are average and will only do the minimum, or will look at something through one set of eyes and won't continue to push. And just think about this. If you were going to a doctor and you had something unusual wrong with you, what would you do? Would you want someone that cared about the result you were getting? Would you want someone who took an interest? Would you want someone who would solve your problem? Or would you want someone that would do the absolute best they could? I'll tell you a quick story. And this is about an attorney that I worked for. And it was actually the last attorney I worked for in my career. And I was hired to work for him. And he was a smart guy. I mean, he went to Columbia Law School. And by the time I went to work for him, I'm assuming he was in his mid to late 50s and had been working quietly in this law firm for 20 years as a litigator. And then he had all these incredibly successful clients, like it's called the Sultan of Brunei, and like just all these incredibly important clients. I think when the Catholic Church got sued, he became, even though it's not a very nice story to tell, he became the one that was like defending them. But he had all these really good clients, big clients, and charged them an incredible amount of money. And back then, billing rate the average billing rate now for a big firm attorney is $1,200. He was at like $1,800. I don't know, but a lot of money. And very quietly had never lost a case, and also was very discreet in getting things solved. And so one of the things that amazed me is I had a case for him, and I was on this mass tort case. It was a stupid case. It was about a thing called Proposition 65, and all these places, stores and things getting sued for not having warnings over cigars that they cause cancer. And so I was going around suing all of these stores, stores and restaurants and stuff. And so the Sultan of Brunei owned the Hotel Bel Air, which is a very fancy hotel in Los Angeles. And they got sued. And of course, instead of just settling for whatever the guy was asking for, $10,000, he was going to pay whatever it took to do this. So it was interesting, is this attorney that I worked for wanted to get a good result. That's what was important to him. So I was on this case became a class action. So it was consolidated in this court. It was consolidated in this court for class actions in California and Los Angeles. And there were probably 50 other law firms there that were representing all of their clients that had been sued. And they were big law firms. And there was Latham and Morrison Forster and Sampson Thatcher and all these great law firms. And so this case was consolidated, and it was dragging on, and no one was doing anything. Everyone was just fighting it. And this attorney that never lost a case said, you need to keep going, like maybe do all this research on these little topics, like everything from service to process to the actual law to how the law got enacted, like going and reading the debate in the California legislature about what the intent was. And then even looking at the people that were suing the hotel were registered as a nonprofit 501c3 company. So he wanted me to go investigate how they qualified for tax exemption, meaning what they have to do to not have to pay tax, and to be like a nonprofit that doesn't pay tax. And so we went and looked at what these people were doing that were suing, and we were able to determine that this wasn't a 501c3 corporation. So very quietly, he approached the person that sued us, and he said, this is what you're doing, and this is bad, and if it gets out that you're doing this, you're going to have a lot of problems in your case. And so what happened is that we were immediately dropped. He immediately dropped us from the case. And we won essentially. And then all these giant law firms just kept chugging along for years, just fighting this case. We didn't say anything. We said, we won't say anything if you throw us out of the case. And so meaning this saved his client an incredible amount of money. But if you think about this, wow, like he did this with everything. Like every time he got a case, like he cared so much that he would go into like such depth and quietly settle things. People would pay him. They would never go to court or trial because what he did, and I want you to just think about this, like this attorney that cared, he cared. And so he won all the time. And everyone else didn't understand this type of psychology where you just keep pushing, you care, and you get those results. And because of that, he made a lot of money and had clients and was incredibly good at what he did. Think about that. And this is what he did with every case. And it's just crazy. Like I thought years later, I was reading peer articles and seeing that this class action was just chugging along and it's just crazy. And he found one little thing and got the case dismissed, or got the person to care about it. So think about this. Think about what happens when you care about something. Think about what happened in that case. Think about what happened with a doctor. This is a rare characteristic, something that most attorneys don't have. A lot of times I talk to attorneys, like I talked to one yesterday, and he was a patent attorney in Utah, and he had an interview. He went out with this firm. They took him out to lunch, and I said, how did it go? And he said, yes, I told them about what I'm looking for, that I'm trying to get more experience in this practice area, and I'll see if they can do what I need. And then I said, did you like them? And he said, yeah, I like them. Yeah, I like them. I hope the money's right, and I hope they can give me the kind of work I wanted. Meanwhile, this guy's out of work. Like he has no job. And I'm like, are you insane? Like you don't go into an interview and talk about what you want. You need to talk about like how you can help them and that you'll care about the work and so forth. So I was talking to him on this, doing his Zoom, talking to him about his interview. And I was like, is there anything you want me to tell them that you liked about them? Is there anything that I can say that would make you a better candidate for them than other people that I might be talking to? What can I do? And he said, no, you just tell them I like them. I'd take a job if I got one. And what I do as a recruiter, like after someone has an interview, I'd talk to them. I care about it. I don't care. I talk to every single person that in this company that gets interviewed, and every single person is interviewed, and because I care. So I had nothing to go back to this firm with about how much she cared or wanted a job. And this is a huge thing. So of course, the firm ended up rejecting him. Really, it was funny. I got off the Zoom, and then 15 minutes later, I saw an email come on from the firm. I didn't have a chance to write him about how much he wanted the jobs and everything. It was just over right then. So I want you to think about this. This person went into an interview talking about what he wanted and not saying how much he cared about his practice area, how much he wanted to work there, all these things. Everything was coming at it from what he wanted. And this particular thing is wrong. You need to actually show the people that you're interviewing that you care about the work, you care about the job, that you care about doing a good job for their clients, all this sort of stuff. You need to be different. And it's a whole mindset. And if your mindset, by the way, is going into interviews and talking about money or vacation time or working remotely, I understand that may be important to you, but you have to care about what your employer wants, regardless of whether you're an associate or partner or for whatever you're looking for. I see people all the time that they talk only about what they want, and they don't think about what they can do to show that they care more about the job or what they can. And then the same thing happens with attorneys with their clients. Like they don't care. I've seen just some of the worst attorneys imaginable that don't care, and they don't do well. You're not going to do well in your career unless you truly care about people that you're working for. And by the way, the people you're working for, when you're working in a law firm or wherever you're working and you're working for partners, those are your clients. This is your chance to show law firm partners how you would be with clients and for them to think about advancing you. And if you're a partner, you will get more clients if you come at as someone that's very interested in them, cares. And if you look like you can solve their problems, and you will be a much, much better attorney and much better in your career if you actually care about your client, the people you're working for. And this is what the best doctors do. This is what the best lawyers do. This is what hardly any recruiters do, but some do. In order to be good and for you to be saved, and a good doctor can save your life. I've seen it happen multiple times with people. They get cancer, something bad happens and they're told they're not going to live, and then they find a doctor that can solve it. And I want you to think about yourself. And I want you to think about what's important to you in your life, and what makes you happy, and what drives you, and what you need in your life. What we all need. We need people to care about us. We like it when we go to restaurants and people remember what we like it when people will do things for us and remember our birthdays. I remember my dad told me a couple of years ago that one of his favorite people is this guy that calls him every day on his birthday, even though he hasn't spoken with him or met with him in years. And so people like that. We want people to care about us. We want our significant others to care about us. We want our children to care about us. We want our families to care about us. And some of the most painful things from people are when that stops, when people get divorced, or when they break up with someone, or when their children, they get alienated for their children, their families. All these things are things that create issues. And we want people to recognize and think we're good in our communities and in our families. And it's very important to us. Think about how you feel when someone says something negative to you, or how you feel when you're talking and disapproval, or when you don't get the things you want that give you approval. Everyone, by the way, it's very important to them. They want to feel or be seen as successful by their peers, bosses, and others. Like, if you don't feel successful, or you're not getting what you want, or you don't think people look at you in a positive way, it's very hurtful. People get very upset, for example, when they'll say bad things about them. They don't like it. Some people can't take it. It's important that most people to find people that care about us. People get into relationships with significant others, so they have people right by them caring about them. People value friendships, not just real friendships. They value that as a fundamental human need. So we all need people to care about us. It's very important. And when people care about us, it makes us very happy. When people spend extra time with us, but service providers, and makes us very happy. My dentist I go to, and he works with me, he'll sit down and spend like 20 minutes just talking and stuff. And I would never go anywhere else. It's just, we want people to care about us. We want lawyers to care about us. We want everyone to care about us. And it's very rare. It's the most fundamental human need, is to have people care about us. And if you have a business, you want them to care about you as well. And if you find service providers, like people that are servicing you in your business, that's going to make you feel very good. Our doctors, lawyers, accountants, legal recruiters, things happen that wouldn't happen if you hired people that actually cared about you. There was a bank, and it's out of business now, but it was First Republic. It was a Silicon Valley bank, and I've been using them for over 10 years. And as part of using them, you would have a dedicated banker that you could email anytime, and they would do things right away. And it was just a really nice experience dealing with them, because someone was always there that cared and knew your business and so forth, and they would help you. And then the bank was taken over by Chase, and now you call there and it's an hour and a half wait. It's just very disturbing. And because of that, don't have a good bank we're using now, our company. And it's very sad. We don't have someone in our business that cares about us. And that's hard. It's hard for the business. Businesses want people to care about them, take time with them, and not treat them in a personal way. And if people care about you, you're able to find solutions. These people will believe in you, and they'll never stop working on your behalf. And think about that. Think about who you know that's likely to you have a connection with, and you think cares about you and so forth. This happens all the time. There's People will have a lawn service or someone that where the people, they have a relationship with them. They talk to them, and when someone comes along and offers to do it for half price, and they say no, because they are literally paying for that connection and relationship, and that's important to them. And so if you are working for someone, you need to show them that you care about them, that you're not just some impersonal person. It's interesting to me, like a lot of associates that go to these big firms in New York and Los Angeles and Houston and everything, like they go to these firms and they're just like thinking this is their opportunity to get these big salaries and work. And they are there to, the firms are there to make them happy. They're going to do the work, but we'll do it. But if things don't go well, they're just going to leave, and they will learn, but they will not truly care about the firm they're at, and they won't truly care about making the firm happy. They will not truly care. They will be more interested in money, and they will not truly care about having a long-term relationship with that client. I'm talking to this partner, and where was he? He was at a very, very good, well-known, just for litigation firm, and just the head of the office in Chicago. And then I've heard this story a lot from partners. He would get bonuses every year, and he would give bonuses. I mean, you'd feel very good about it. He was distributing $1 million, 20 people or whatever. And so people that got the bonuses, a lot of them were unhappy and, didn't like it. And instead of making him feel good, and so he cared about giving them these bonuses, and he thought he was doing a very nice thing. But then everyone was mad they didn't get enough, and very upsetting to him because he wanted to feel that they would care about him back. And it's just, you have to be very careful of this stuff. And the best lawyers will get their clients off in a criminal account. The best lawyers will care about the work that they do, like the attorney I was talking to you about. And the best accountants will make sure you don't pay too much in tax. I had an accountant once that didn't care. We hired him because our last accountant was just not working out. It was too expensive or something. I don't remember, taking too long. So we hired this other accountant. He spent like a day doing our corporate tax return, filed it, and it said we owed several $1 million. We filed this tax return, and then something didn't seem right, and just too much money. And so we went in and hired a good tax return, or a good tax accountant, much better than the one he worked almost in a storefront, Ventura, Oxnard, California, and it wasn't our top choice, so someone we should have used. And then the next accountant cared and found all these deductions, and we didn't end up owing anywhere near as much money. A lot of legal recruiters is very interesting, and my role here is not to promote legal recruiting, but I've noticed all these things that can happen when a good legal recruiter is involved. A good legal recruiter will see the candidate's potential, and they will do whatever they can. They won't just find a few jobs and submit them and hope the candidate gets one, which is what most legal recruiters do. And then candidates get an interview or whatever, and then the recruiting firm doesn't have anything to send them until someone find a new thing. They typically will not keep researching and doing whatever they can to connect employers. They won't develop a pitch for the candidate and talk to them and to make sure that they're not giving up, and they will do things as well as they possibly can when things do not go well. And just, again, not here to promote BCG in any fashion, but when we work with someone, and I'm just trying to give this to you as an example of what normal to extraordinary. When we work with someone, we don't just send them a few jobs. We will send them our jobs, but we'll also send them jobs that we've had before that are no longer active, if they can, in a certain practice area where it would be appropriate for us to do that, meaning that candidate is, firms may hire them even without openings. Then we will research firms that have interviewed candidates and similar in their background before. We will look at firms that have had job openings repeatedly that may not have them now. We will do all sorts of things. We will look at candidates that have interviewed, that have applied to certain firms, and they may not have been interviewed, but we put a cookie and resumes when they're open. And so we'll send people to those types of firms, and just all sorts of things that we do because we care. And most people, well, a lot of people are blown away. Maybe not even, they'll be like, this is too much, I give up. But and stop responding. But that's what we do, is because we care. And so you have to, in my profession, you have to have a picture of who someone can become. It's not just, doesn't have to be just transactional, meaning this person manages this job. You have to be able to send candidate to firms that might not normally, they're very prestigious and they might not normally hire them, or you have to know what to do, and you have to be able to take risk and believe that this person, if they get out to the right firm in the right market, even if they're not employed, even if there are problems in the past, you have to believe in who they can become. Just like a doctor needs to do with their client, or a lawyer needs to do with their client. But if you go to a service provider, anybody that does something for you, you're gonna find someone that cares about what you can become. Imagine all the times you've called customer service places and they've been rude to you, or you haven't been able to get through. And this is what, as an attorney, your ability to answer the phone when clients calls, your ability to put in the best possible research, to ask people to find things that other people don't know, that's very helpful. And the best thing recruiters will never stop caring, never stop getting jobs for you, never stop doing what they can. And this is an example right now. Who's doing webinars like this, trying to help people? I do this because I care. And this is an example of what makes a difference. So think about this. What are you doing in your job that shows you care? What are you doing as a attorney that shows you care? Are you writing articles and things about issues relevant to your practice area that you can put on your firm website? Are you getting are you going out and trying to learn, meet with partners and, things in your firm, or if you're a partner, meet with clients and try to do things? Are you putting in extra work with what you do? Are you looking more deeply at issues? Are you going to conferences and bringing back notes from them? Are you joining associations relevant to what you're doing? Are you all sorts of things that show you care about your practice area and potential clients and whatever you can? Are you doing all these things? Very few people are. You have to be seen, and you have to do more for your clients, and you have to, if you care about what you're doing too. Like, what's very interesting is, I remember when I was practicing law, like I once was going up and asking this particular partner about taking depositions and all this sort of stuff. And I wanted to take this very important deposition of a key witness in the case. It's ridiculous because it was a huge case. And I went and asked this partner if he could help me if he could get me on this deposition. I asked him a question, blah, blah, blah. And he was a very important partner in the firm. And I basically said, you can't do this deposition. And so I went back to my office, and I left at 10 o'clock at night or something. And I got him the next morning, and he had left me like a 20-minute voicemail message that was like 4 messages, because each time he got cut off, talking about how to do a good deposition. And he was doing this till 10:30 at night. And I was like, wow, this guy like really fucking cares. And he's just taking all this time to tell me how to do this. And what a wonderful person and a representative of the profession. And so this was really something. And he ended up very well known and very famous attorney, meaning he's representing some of the most important, largest entertainment companies and so forth. But he did that. I mean, he did that with the first year associate. Wow. So think about that. Like, this guy, very successful, and look what he did. And think about that in terms of, would you do that in your career? Would you do that if you were a mid-level associate and a junior associate came to you and asked you a question, would you call them or send them a long email to try to give them good advice, even if it was above and beyond what they needed or something? Would you do that? Because if you do that with a junior associate or mid-level associate, the junior associate is always going to remember you. They may become general counsel of a company and later on and hire you. They could, all sorts of things can happen. They could go to another firm and you might need a job and they would reach out to you. If you say you care about someone, it's just hugely important. Very few people do. Very few people show that they care about someone. I had a since when I was in college, this person, and I'm trying to offend anybody, but I was in this fraternity and I was the president of this fraternity. And the previous year, there was this, or 2 or 3 years previously, there was this guy in the fraternity and I was in Chicago. He was getting horrible grades. He was drinking too much, smoking, not doing well and low self-esteem. But he'd written this article about why he wanted to join this fraternity when he was young, when he was the first year or whatever, he joined. And it was a very moving piece. And I was leading this meeting, and it talked about how much he wanted to join this fraternity, how much he cared. And so I read it to everyone I didn't know who it was from. And I just said, this person, a remarkable representative of us, someone that I'm not saying who it is, but this is what our culture is like and everything like that. Anyway, so I did that, and the guy was very nice to me. There were some issues that I had with bringing my girlfriend to the fraternity house too much. He stepped in and defended me and diffused the situation. And for years later, I would see him and different things, and he came up and he said how meaningful that was, that I did that and made him feel good. I showed him I cared, and in response, he helped me and then appreciated it for a long time because he wasn't getting any positive feedback from school or anything, but this was like positive feedback that was very meaningful to him. So think about that. Think about what happens when you're nice to people or when you show you care about them. Because this person, and then he came to my wedding and was a very nice guy. So legal recruiting, think about that. A lot of people that go into the business, and I'm just saying this to give you an understanding of also why people become lawyers. You become lawyers because they want money, but then after being lawyers, a lot of people decide they don't like it. So they don't like the hours, the double hours, or it's too stressful or whatever. So most people like to become legal recruiters. And so they figure that they can use their law degrees and do something else. And when they went into practicing law, a lot of them liked it a lot, but a lot of them didn't. And they went in there and they found out that they'll say, oh, I wasn't passionate about practicing law or whatever it is, and they didn't care about it. So a lot of these recruiters, people that become recruiters, then become recruiters. And they didn't have a passion for when they were practicing law. They didn't have a passion for being a good attorney. And then a lot of them become recruiters, and they don't have a passion for people or helping them. And recruiters, a lot of them, I'm sure a lot of people on this webinar talk to them or use them. But if you pick up the phone, a lot of them, you won't be able to get them. You'll just they're not here or be answering service. And that's just what it is. If someone's not picking up the phone, if they're not responding to your emails or text or whatever, it shows that they don't care and you don't feel good about yourself. And so this is this example of recruiters I'm giving you because people that become recruiters often, regardless, they say they went to Harvard or whatever, or big law schools or these big law firms, but that doesn't mean they care. That doesn't mean the recruiter cares. Often they become recruiters because they didn't care about practicing law, so they want to do something else where they don't care and try to make money without the stress of practicing law. It's what it is. And so you need to think very deeply about this because it's extremely important for your career. If you understand the power of caring and what it's going to do for your life and what it's going to do for your career, caring about friends, caring about potential clients, caring about, and this, by the way, this one thing. So I have talked to this year alone, probably, at least 10 attorneys that have these major books of business. So what is a major book? I would consider like 8 million and above and that sort of thing, like big books of business. And all of them, without any question, the way they have gotten business is not just like saying like people looking on the internet and seeing they went to school and have all this experience. They business by developing relationships and helping and showing that they're there for people, even if they're not giving them business or never had for them, they show that they care. People that I was talking to a guy the other day, a very interesting guy, and he has a small book of business, but like $1 million, but it's not even in his practice area. And he was able to bring in these people by making friends with them because he surfed with them or whatever in El Salvador. And then with these clients, he calls them every week and sees how they're doing, even to develop a relationship and show that he cares. And so he has this business, even though they're not in his practice area, as other attorneys doing them, but he still does pay for it. But I want you to understand that not only does he have the business because he made these relationships, but he keeps the business because he shows that he cares, even though he didn't even do the kind of work that regulatory client, and he's a litigator. So this is just how it works and how people get business. What's interesting is, and I'm sorry to keep talking about this, but it's very important because if you want to have a good career as an attorney, if you want to get business, by the way, I'm going to tell you how to do that right now. This could change the course of your life if you are understanding what I'm saying. And if you're an associate or anything like that, it could change everything. But these people who get business, what they do is they find people that could have business. They try to meet with them. They develop relationships with them. They ask questions and learn about their business. They refer them to resources and things that they can that help them in their business. They keep trying to develop a relationship in a way that shows that they care. If the person gets in trouble, like needs something bad happens in the company, or they get fired or something, and they try to help them in there, so they show that they care. The only thing that people that succeed do that's different from people that don't succeed. They have this ability to show people that they care. Often, you can become a partner in a law firm by finding someone that has business, even if you don't have business, and doing everything you can to show that you care. I can't emphasize enough how important this is and how many careers are ruined and never go anywhere because people don't show that they care. This is just incredibly important. It's everything in a lot of cases. It's everything. So you can do two things in your legal career or in your career in general. You have to understand that some people are just motivated by helping and caring for people, meaning they actually meet. And there's people that are driven by things that may not involve people. Like, I guess you can be in engineering or labs or architecture, finance, and different things, and not care as much. But you have to be different types of professions, which is an attorney. You have to be in a position and be the person that's caring about other people. Not only just caring about other people, but caring about the work that you do, like doing a better job, everything around that. You have to be motivated by that. I had this weird experience. Years ago, I was in this lawsuit with this recruiter or former recruiter of our company. And funny, but recruiters are always suing the recruiting firms, and recruiters are always suing recruiters for different things. It's just how it is. It used to happen with every recruiting firm. Honestly, it happens with everyone. But anyway, this recruiter we were going after, who was suing in Texas, and I'd hired this law firm that had all these people in it that were just these incredible qualifications. It was like 8 or 9 attorneys, but they all had they went to University of Texas for law school. They were like number 3 in their class, or maybe they went to Duke Law School and were like, whatever, Order of the Court, and all this stuff. They had like about 10 attorneys like that, and incredible qualifications. And they were all in this office that was very nice, and it overlooked this cave that they have in Austin where there's these bats and things, and there was a porch. And so it was a very nice law firm. And so I hired these people, and they had incredible qualifications. What could go wrong? And so they were doing this appeal, and the attorney on the other side, there was 2 attorneys on the other side, got up and made this incredible presentation against my case that, I think you're given 7 minutes or something. And they went right up to the buzzer, and he finished, and it was just incredible. And then my attorney got up and made this 3-minute presentation. His collar was up like this. He just wasn't thinking, and just recited a few cases and then sat down. And I realized right then that this guy did not care, that he wasn't involved. Smart, he could give me the law back, but he just wasn't involved. And then I watched over the years as this firm, they moved out of their nice office. It was like by the first season, they moved to a smaller office, and then pretty soon 10 attorneys, there was 6, and then it was 3. And I realized that these were people that did not care. And that's why their firm kind of plugged. This is what happens when you don't care. And I'm giving you this lesson because I'm telling you, if you start your own law firm and don't care, this is going to happen. If you try to get clients, this is going to happen. Not caring is huge. I've seen attorneys, and when I was at this New York firm doing Valentine, I saw these attorneys that had broken off, or the firm kind of imploded, and they started their own firm, and none of them cared. I was there when I was practicing law, and their firm, same thing. They started off with like 5 or 6 of them, and then eventually we're down to 2, and that's crazy. So you have to, the more you help people, the better your career is going to be. And if you gravitate towards helping people, Um, that's the same thing that makes the best legal recruiters. And one example, just this kind of a stupid example, but I've hired corporate attorneys to be recruiters. I've hired patent attorneys to be recruiters. And typically the best people are not out of transactional practice areas. They're out of practice areas where, litigation and things like that, where they end up being closer to people and they have interest in them. And honestly, in this particular business, I'm talking a little bit, but women tend to do better than men. I'm not going to be sexist here. They tend to be a little more nurturing and interested in people. And so this is what recruiters do, but it's also what you need to do in your career, in your practice area. You need to care about the people you're working for. You need to care about potential clients. And I just want to be very clear with you. If your goal is to make money, then you shouldn't be practicing law. You can make a lot of money if you care. But the same thing in recruiting, like people that go into it, if you talk to them and they're former attorneys and they tell you how much you disliked it and all that sort of thing, or they needed more flexibility, those typically are not going to be the best type of recruiters. The best recruiters are going to be people that care about others. And it's like that in practicing law. So if you are using a recruiter and that you think that recruiter may not care about you or whatever, and if you're using an attorney or a doctor or whatever, you need to make sure that you choose the best person you can. Because if you don't, your career is going to have problems. You're not going to get anywhere near what you could be. And it's the same thing with your legal career. If you don't do the best you can and care about people, the same thing is going to happen. So we talked a little bit more, and this ton of other things to talk about, but I have 6 other things that are going to go into some detail about what you need to do well in your career. And this next one is to recruiter eliminate getting as much personal information as possible for you to help you. So I hope that last topic about caring, and the first one can make you understand it and can help you because it really is one of the most important things that you can do to have a good career. And I know that everybody wants a good career. It's just that this particular thing, when people do this and they care about the people that they're working for and the firm they're working for, and that firm knows that they care, and when you care about others, regardless of who you're working with, and that makes a big difference. When you care about people that you don't even know that could have potential business, that will help you. This topic is, and this human way of relating to people and doing something for them that shows you care is so rare. Very few people do this, and if you do this, your career will be completely on track. I've been in business for a quarter of a century doing this, and I have people working for me that started 4 years ago or 23 years ago and are still there when the company's probably gone through hundreds of employees in that time. And all these people that are there are only there. The only reason I kept them on and they're so valuable is because they actually care about what they're doing. They care. And there's 400 people that haven't worked out and they are let go or when things get bad or whatever because they don't care. They do the minimum, or it's all these sorts of, lawyers from great schools, it doesn't matter. But the second your heart is in whatever you're doing, you will never lose a job. Never. You just won't, because you're too valuable. And so this particular characteristic, I'm just telling you, it's led for people working for me, started out at $15 an hour, making much, much more. People that have tripled their salary, all this stuff, just because they care. That is the most valuable thing you can do for an employer. That is the most valuable thing you can do if you want to get business. And I'm not trying to really go over this again and again, but I just want you to understand this is incredibly crucial. And if you don't do this, then you're going to have problems in your career and in your life, because very few people do this, and the ones that do have the best lives and careers. And I want you to have that. And I really encourage you to think about this and the importance of caring about the clients, about the people you're working for, about people in your personal life. If you do that, people are going to like you. You're going to, all these sorts of things. You need to show that you care. The next thing about a legal recruiter, what a legal recruiter does, and this is the same thing that you need to do if you want to get business and if you want to do well in your careers. A good legal career is going to get as much personal information about you as possible. So think about that. They're not just viewing you transactionally as a recruiter. What they're doing is they're seeing you as a unique person with a story to be told. Like, you're not just this person that went to this school and has this experience. You're a unique person. You have certain attributes. There's certain things that make you unique. You may be growing up on a farm and put yourself through school. I don't know, but people that are really good at recruiting, for example, they get as much personal information about you and your history of employment or hobbies to understand what motivates you. Like, I had one candidate weeks ago, and she had been a cook that had a cooking show, like a national cooking show. And I only learned this because I spoke to her and spent some time with her and got close to her because I care. And I didn't get close to her and I understand, but I got this information about her that she had this cooking show. It was on some sort of network, I don't know, home network or something. And she didn't have it on her resume. Like, she had taken some time off, so she stopped work like in 2000 and had this break of 3 or 4 years. During that time, it looked like she was having a child or something, but she absolutely was starting her cooking show. And so I told that to firms. And then she went from someone that wasn't getting any interviews because she had this big break on her resume to someone who got multiple interviews. And I told her to put this on her resume and to rewrite, to contact all the firms that she'd submitted application to before me. And she got hired. She got several jobs. People like that. They like knowing this type of personal information that makes you unique. And she liked it. She was very happy that I found this. So a good recruiter can personalize you to law firms and tell a story and so forth. And that helps things. People like people more when they can relate to them. And this is what people do that are good at their jobs. So if you're talking to a law firm and you're looking for a job and you can somehow identify with them and the people that you're talking to, then when you're trying to get a job or when you're working for someone, then you can make a connection with someone. It's very important. So I remember this is a long time ago, but it was like November of 2000, there was just demand for attorneys. I was actually watching a show with Harry Stan about this last night, we were talking about economic cycle. But late 2000, like November 2000, the legal market fell off the face of the earth because all of a sudden, all these internet companies that were new websites and things that looked like they were going to do really well, the market just crashed and insanity. Like, law firms probably laid off like 70% of their corporate attorneys, and all these people were out of work, and then there was just no jobs, and everyone was losing their jobs. And so I had this one candidate. He was in New York City, and he had great qualifications. Columbia or something, and was working at a really prestigious firm, Skadden or something. I don't know what Skadden, but a really good firm like that. And he had lost his job, and it wasn't usual for people to lose their jobs because everyone was losing their jobs. So we applied to, I believe it was Morrison & Foerster in Colorado. And that was strange as it seems. That may have been the only corporate attorney in the entire country at the times. And so he went out there and I got this interview, and we're like, wow, corporate attorney got an interview. And so he's in the interview and he's talking to this guy, literally thinking about the only job in the country. And he saw like a picture or something on the wall. And so he started talking to his partner, and he said, I love snowboarding too. And the partner said, where do you snowboard? What do you do? And so they sat there talking about all of this information about how they both love snowboarding, different places they could snowboard, and different hills that in Colorado. And so they made this bond. So by eliciting this personal information from the partner, they had this bond, and he got the job. Literally, this firm could have hired anyone. But when they hired him, they said, we love this guy. The partner said, loves this guy. He's done snowboarding stuff. And so he elicited that information and was able to get the job because he was interested. He wasn't just there to, pair off his experience and qualifications. What happens a lot of times in interviews, people want to go into an interview and they want to just tell people all of their experience. And I think that's how they're going to get hired, based on their experience. And you're not hired based on your experience. I mean, everyone, as long as you make it in the door that your experience is fine, they may give a reason that like your experience for rejecting you, but the only reason what a law firm's looking for, anybody's looking for when they hire you, is basically they want to like you. Who would you want to work with? Someone you liked or someone who you didn't like? So that's what they're looking for. They're looking, for that sort of thing. So the more you can make a personal connection, the better. And by the way, if you're interviewing at a firm and they're very serious and just asking you about your experience and you're not able to make any type of connection or anything with them, then that's a scary place to work, because they're acting that way because they know that if things get bad, they'll let you go or whatever. You're not in advance. And so that's scary. Let me try to think about that. A good law firm that interviewed you is also going to try to make a connection with you. And I know it's illegal to ask about families and things, but if that comes up, people want to identify with people. Some people, when they hire people in the firm, we like them because they have a family, or we like them because of this. So you have to make this connection, right? So this is what recruiters do. Recruiters will draw out your personal information the best they can, and then they'll be able to put that in a way to the employer that looks good and makes the employer feel good. And if you're, your final thing is, if a recruiter is interested in you and can represent you in a way, then you can do very well. Now, there's personal information as well. Like, that's what a recruiter does. But from the standpoint of working for a law firm, that your ability to elicit this sort of information from the people that you're make a personal connection with people in your firm, it's very important. The better you can connect with them, and I'm not talking about in a too personal way, but the better you connect with people in your law firm, the much better off you will do. And connect with clients and have a personal connection as well. So you ask people questions, you ask about different sorts of things. And if you're able to do that very well, you will do well. Next one, and it didn't have a slide for it, but because anyway, the legal recruiter will put a lot of thought into the work that they produce trees, meaning instead of just turning in work that is perfect and stuff, the legal recruiter will do the best possible work they can. It will be high quality, flawless in terms of what they write, and they will present that to a law firm in a way that captures how good you are, meaning it will be a high quality application. They'll write a letter, there won't be typos or anything in it, and that particular letter will make you stand out and look exceptional. Now, what am I talking about with this? When I work with the best attorneys, they will always, for the best firms, the very best attorneys, they will always produce they'll have a resume that has no issues. They will care about it, and the resume will be as good as it possibly can be. They will maybe watch videos that I have online about insurance, so do everything they can to produce the best resume possible. And they'll even do things like, they'll try to make, there's so many things that I go over and look at a resume, but they will make the experience look right. They will, everything you need to make a resume, they will do. They're producing the highest quality product. And the best attorneys too, by the way, will do the same thing with the work that they do for their law firms. They will make sure that the work that they produce is as good as possible. They won't produce crap. They'll think through the law. They'll make sure things are updated, and they will look for extra examples and things and research. And this is what people do that care. And this is what you need to do as an attorney to do as well as you possibly can. Your work product needs to be the very, very best it can be. You need to think through what you're doing. Like the attorney I talked to about earlier, that was able to quietly win all these cases by making sure that he thought through every single thing that he was doing and produced the highest quality work. And this is what you need to do. This is, by the way, the best legal recruiters do. I'm not, by any source of imagination, just simply here to promote good legal recruiting in BCG, but the best people will care a lot about the work that they're doing, and that's what you need to do for your clients. I just want to make a quick point, and then I will finish this particular slide. When you make errors in work, when your things you're writing or producing have small errors in them, you may have punctuation errors, you may have different types of errors and things, or different mistakes like that to a client. What a client thinks, meaning anybody that you're working for, the client will believe that you haven't thought through things as well. The client will believe that you haven't thought through an issue, and it will make you look bad. So it's the same thing with careers you're working for. If you are working for, you're on the law firm, you work with partners, and you turn in work that's not good and not thought out and not
flawless in terms of punctuation and your citations and everything, then the law firm, no one's going to trust you. And it's the same thing with client. If you're not doing the absolute best work you can, then they're not going to have trust in you. So your work product is very important. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because attorneys that don't do this with their resume don't get interviews. Attorneys that don't do this with the people that they're working for get fired. And because of the quality of the work. Your position, your job is to make sure that you make the absolute best quality work product when you're working for people. Absolutely crucial, because if you don't, you're going to be overtaken by someone that does. I'll just tell you a quick story, and it's a fun story. So when I was working for this federal judge, my first job, first week I was there, he called me very seriously, called me into his office, and he had these kind of double doors. He could talk close if something serious was wrong, or he needed to be everything to be very quiet. So he went in, he closed his double doors, and he sat me down, and I could feel this energy coming off, extremely upset. And he had this thing, it was actually funny, but I work on these things called habeas corpus petitions, where prisoners try to get out of jail. And so you might do these once every 2 weeks, and you just basically read them, and they don't make sense. Then you just deny them. It was fun being a clerk, just not allowing people out of prison. But the judge obviously reads them. And so I was going through and just writing denied and all these documents and printing them up for the judge to sign. And for some reason, I don't know, one of them, meaning his petition was granted and he could be in prison. I don't know, it was murder or whatever. But I wrote granted, fine. He would never have been out of prison. I mean, there would have been all this things that would have happened. But anyway, granted, so I was there and the judge showed it to me. He was extremely upset. You can never make this again. This could have been catastrophic. And so and then he said, never make these kind of errors. And then a couple months later, like he called me and I don't know, I had something where I said there as opposed to there. And so it was crucial. I mean, I learned that you had to, what his belief was, is that if your work wasn't perfect, then the person reading it or the appellate court reading it would believe that you weren't thinking through the issue and therefore weren't a good attorney. You have this veneer of whatever it is, but beneath the veneer is all this legal reasoning. And if the quality of your work isn't really good, meaning you're making typos or you're putting commas in the right place and so forth, but the quality of your work's not really good, then whatever the thought process beneath it isn't right. So if you look at the best attorneys and all over the country, they're always producing work product that doesn't have any issues. This is what happens. There's a difference between a really good law firm and an average one. The better the law firm, the tighter the language and things that they do, and the better the quality works. So this is the lesson I learned. So then I went to my second law firm, and in my first law firm, people would come by and ask me to proof and review stuff. And for whatever reason, I had this ability to mark things up and create credible work product much better. And I did this, by the way, for associates and things, and I didn't charge them for my time, or I didn't bill it to clients, but I did. And so I got to my next firm, and I was there like 3 or 4 months, and then this woman attorney had gone to Stanford came by and asked me to mark something up. So I marked it up, and it was just lines and these and ways of rephrasing things, and just all marked up. And then partner stopped by my office, and he said, "This is just incredible, like what you've done. Go get him, Barnes." And then I walked out, and there were these 3 or 4 partners just like staring at it, like going, "Wow, it's awesome." And it was very funny. You have to produce good work product. And if you do, then you'll be in very good shape if that's what people want. So you're a recruiter serving attorneys and the best attorneys, by the way. That's the difference between attorneys that are many times average or never go anywhere. And their work product is exceptional. And when they deal with clients, their work product is exceptional. When they deal with other people in the firm, their work product is exceptional. But meaning they put a lot of time into it. Like I'm not bragging or anything here, but when I wrote a letter, I would write the letter. It might take me 30 minutes, but then proofing the letter and making it perfect might take an hour and a half or 2 hours, because you want to make sure that everything you do is well written or good as possible. It's like that with patent law. Like patent attorneys get fired all the time because they make some sort of
reasoning error in writing the patent, the patent attorneys know that they only made that because there was some sort of sloppy mistake, and then they fire them. It's how it works in the patent law field. And then you don't, that's why they get fired. And people get angry when they make those sorts of errors. Attorneys, recruiters, not necessarily about recruiters, but a good recruiter needs to care about you. And just a good lawyer needs to care about you. You need to care about your work product to be advanced in a law firm. You're not going to get anywhere if you're doing sloppy work, and people pick up on it. And if you do the opposite, then people are going to be very impressed with you or like you. So you need to, if you're not doing good work, your work product doesn't look good, then you're not going to get ahead. Clients need to think your work product's good. People you're working for need to think that your work product's good. And good work product means not just that you've done the work, it means that your work product's exceptional. I see with attorneys all the time, like they have seen people, they write letters to get a job to an employer, and there's all these mistakes and typos. The resume is not perfect, or they get to law firms and they miss things. Like they don't think through things as much as they can, and the reasoning of it is off. They're not asking for help about something they don't understand, and they're just not doing good work. And so the work quality of your work is very important. And you don't have to, or if you say you're like, I don't know, you're not good at one practice area, you're not good at something, like you need to learn to get good. People say, I'm not a good writer. Then you need to learn to be a good writer. People say, whatever, I'm not interested in this type of thing. And so, but you need to try to do your absolute best to whatever practice area you are. And sometimes maybe you are not interested and you can't keep up in a certain practice area. And I've seen people that are no longer in commercial litigation become incredibly successful family lawyers. All sorts of things happen, but your work product, you need to do the best work possible. And here's a final thing before we move on to the next thing. When you're working in a law firm, whatever job you're doing, you need to be interested in that, and you need to put yourself in a situation where whatever your practice area is, it should be natural for you. Like you should be excited about always doing the best work that you can. And different people, by the way, are cast in different ways. And this is important to understand from the on your work product. Some people are very interested in representing other people and helping them and being up behind the scenes and someone's cheerleader or a company's cheerleader. And other people are interested in, I don't know, business or starting companies and doing things. That's what makes them happy. And people have natural skills. Some people, I knew a guy that was a recruiter once. When he was 5 years old, he was put in front of a piano and he could play anything. He just knew how to do it by ear. He didn't know notes or anything. He had a natural skill. People have natural skills. You have natural skills about things that interest you. And it may not be the practice of law, but whatever your interest is, you should have something that you do much, much better than others. Like I had my daughter taking these AP classes and whatever, like American history was like, no problem. Like 5, perfect 4, very natural to her, when math may be a lot harder, like calculus or whatever. So people just have natural skills in different things. And so you should be doing something where you have a natural skill and your work can improve constantly. And this is very important, because if you do not do this right, it will hurt you for the rest of your life. You should not be trying to do something that doesn't come natural to you or where you can't see the quality of your work improving over time. I see people, by the way, and this can be you, that just become contract attorneys because they want to work in a law firm. I see people that don't have certain skills that are working in law firms, but they'll never get ahead. People have different skills and do different things naturally and are good at certain things and not others, and you are too. But you have to be doing something that you're good at, where your skills are constantly improving. This is what it's all about. If you're interested in criminal law, you have to think that you're always going to make it better and better. You want to take courses in criminal law. You want to do all this stuff. And when I see resumes of successful attorneys, let me tell you the difference between a resume of a really successful attorney and one that doesn't. Again, this is going back to how much they care, but the resumes of the most successful attorneys always have papers that they've written about this stuff and presentations they've given and important matters that they've worked on. Like there's just so much, you can see so much thought that's gone into the work that they've done and everything. And
It's very important to them. But you need to be doing something like that that interests you, and where you can consistently put your work and yourself into it. And if you're not doing that, let me just be really clear with you. If you're not doing something that you like, then it's not probably a good idea to continue doing that, because your work quality is not going to. I see people in California all the time, like they fail the bar like 5 times or whatever, or three times. And then suddenly they're unemployed or never were employed. And a lot of times people aren't interested in practicing law. They went to law school and they earned a lot of money, and they wind up at great firms and so forth, and lose their jobs. I saw a girl from Yale that I talked to not too long ago that failed the California bar like 4 times, Yale Law School. And she was just a white woman grew up in a great boarding school. The people that aren't interested in something, their work will often not be good. And so you should not be doing something where you can't see your work constantly improving. So you have to put a lot of thought into things and be very good. Otherwise, you're going to have a very difficult time in your career. And I'm sorry for spending so much time on this, but you have to be doing something where you can put a lot of your energy into it, and work comes naturally, and you like it, and your work quality is constantly going to improve. Now, here's another thing, and this isn't just related to recruiting, it's related to a lot of other things. But a good lead recruiter is going to see what you can become, meaning they're going to see your potential, and they have a vision for you, and they believe, that you're not the person you are today is not who you're going to be tomorrow, when they put effort into helping you. And if you're unemployed, they see you as employed. And if you're at a small firm, they realize that you can get into a large firm. They see your potential. Now, the best attorneys, this is just how it works. Like the best attorneys you will have to look at a client, whatever the client is, whatever your practice area, they will look at the client and the work that they're doing, and they won't just do it. They will do it with the idea that whatever the transaction is, whatever the litigation matter is, whatever the dispute is, whatever the intellectual property matter is, they will look at the matter from the standpoint of seeing what the work that they do, how that's going to help the client, and how the client is going to do well because of that. They're not just doing the work like in a road fashion. They're actually the best attorneys are actually believing in their clients and what they can help them do, as opposed to just going through the action. Like they're very interested. They're interested. And this is what, again, the best attorney, like with $10, $20 million in business, that they look at their clients and they're excited about helping them and helping them become something. It's something that moves them. And if you don't like the people that you're practicing law with, for example, then a good recruiter will see you as someone that's going to succeed and be able to move to other markets. Like you would have to see your clients in the same way. And what happens in this business, what I'm in, is it's very interesting. Sometimes I won't talk to the candidate. The candidate won't want to talk to me before they start their job search. It's not something they're interested in. Or they won't want to meet with me. I like to meet people personally. Every time almost that I go out and I meet a candidate personally, that person gets a job. If I don't talk to the person and they won't meet with me and I just identify firms to them, make them fill out questionnaires, that person almost never gets a job. When a recruiter gets behind a client, believes in them, like a candidate, then that's going to make a huge difference in how successful the candidate is. Now, you need to do the same thing with your clients. Whatever your type of client is, you need to naturally gravitate towards doing the best you can for the client that you're working for. And this particular point is just, to be a good attorney, it's not about you. Like, it's not about you being able to become more powerful or more successful. The best attorneys will take a natural interest in their clients. They are the type of people that it's more important to get a good result for their client and believe in what their client can do, whether it's General Motors or a small company or an individual. They believe that they get the best result for them, and they're very interested in helping other people or companies than they are interested in helping themselves. And so this just is a huge thing that's going to make you successful if you understand what you need to do. You need to be someone that's naturally drawn to helping clients and wants to get them a good result.
And that should be that number one priority, regardless of your practice. So the other thing that's very important, and this is with working with a recruiter, but it's also in your career, like a good recruiter is someone that you're going to hear from all the time, and they're going to be there, and job search, it may take a long time. And so in my business, I know that there's probably a lot of candidates on this webinar that have working with me, but you hear from me a lot, putting your jobs in your account, telling you to approve them and job orders and everything. And you're present and you're hearing from me instead of not hearing from me. And so what does it mean when you're hearing from me? I'm researching positions, I'm finding new firms and making suggestions, like just constantly working with the person, working and never stopping and always learning about the market and never stopping unless the candidate stops responding. Again, probably a lot of people on this call that just get overwhelmed or get a job and stop responding, but you're there and you're seen. And by being seen, that means that more people are likely to do business with a company or use the company, and the company becomes more successful. And obviously, a lot of recruiters will call you and then they will send you to a few firms and then email you about a job. And then if that doesn't work out, you'll never hear from them again. They may be embarrassed that they're unable to get your position or feel you're unmarketable or whatever, but the best seasoned recruiters you will hear from quite a bit. So what does this mean in your career? So I just want to make sure you understand, like hearing from someone or being present, like the only attorneys that end up getting business are the ones that are seen, meaning they're present, they're seen, people know who they are, they go out of their way to be in touch with clients. The best partners that bring in clients have relationships with the clients, and the client knows they're there. I mean, they're hearing from the attorney in order to get business. You do this. And another thing that's very interesting is there's all these law firms around the country that have these branch offices and all this sort of thing. And what typically happens is people that are in branch offices are much less likely to become real partners, equity partners, and so forth than people that are in the main office. What does that mean for your, if you're in a branch office? Well, it means that you need to be present and seen by the people that are decision makers in order for you to advance in your career, meaning you need to be there. But when I say about there, you need to be seen. And that's this whole idea of getting business and by getting a job is about being seen. So what does that mean when you hear from people all the time? When I was practicing law, I remember there were a couple attorneys that were very senior. They were like 6th, 7th year attorneys at big firms like Morgan Lewis and things. And they used to send me article clips about things we might have worked on a case opposite each other or something or together. But they would send me like copies of articles and things and the notes of my senior. Like, what? It's weird. And you hear from them all the time. But those particular people became very successful attorneys. I remember, sitting there, I got an alert from JD Journal or something about one of them doing something major. And so this is what attorneys do in order to get clients. This is what attorneys do to stay relevant to the people that are in their office. This is what attorneys do to get things. Think about BCG. I'm sure you get emails from us. Maybe you even ask for them. You get different things happen on the web or whatever on LinkedIn. And so this is what people do that are more successful. They're able to be seen. And so you need to be seen. This is why people advertise on the TV, even if you get things in your mailbox all the time from different companies. Why you go to internet sites and you see the same companies that look like they could be good fits for you advertising over and over again. This is what you need to do in order to become a successful attorney. You need to be seen. The people that are hiring you need to know who you are and they need to hear from you. You can't just sit in an office and expect to get business or expect to build your reputation as an attorney if you don't hear from the recruiter, like from the person. If you're not hearing from the person. It's interesting. I told this story before, but I'll tell it again real quickly because I want you to understand how important it is. So from the time Bill Clinton, I'm freshman or young student, and Bill Clinton, of course, became president, he kept these note cards and he would meet people and write down things like about them that were personal, about their birthdays or their children or whatever. And he would keep these note cards, and he would do this with everyone he met. Like he would go around meeting people and he would do these note cards where he would write down whatever about
to keep these note cards. I'm sure like this. And then he would constantly review these note cards. And then he would follow up with people, and he would call them and talk to them, whatever, to be heard from. And just eventually that's how he developed the ability to go from being a law professor at the University of Arkansas to becoming governor of the state, to become president. People need to hear from you in order for you to be seen, in order for you to succeed. If you're in a branch office, people in the main office need to be hearing from you. If you're trying to get clients, they need to hear from you. Have existing clients who need to hear from you. You need to be in touch with people, because if they don't hear from you, then you're not going to be successful. I don't know how much to say about this. Attorneys now are not going into the office. They're working remotely. Those are the first people that are let go. They go into the office and people see you and they hear from you. You need to be seen. I can't emphasize this enough. It's important. The next thing is legal recruiters following up. This is not the most important aspect of what I want to talk about today, but recruiters will often introduce you to a law firm, but that's it. So very few recruiters follow up. And so very few people in our business follow up after doing something, and law firms will receive lots of resumes, and law firms are often disorganized. It's not their fault. Imagine receiving tons of resumes from recruiters. And so as a recruiting firm, we try to follow up on every candidate we represent. We call it a follow up. It's not just emailing applications, and we also email them, but we send reports to law firms of pending candidates, ask them to update it, and do a bunch of stuff like that. And then we do are law firm placements. And we try to follow up law firms consistently, and meaning we're sending them, following up on applications and so forth. And this gives us an edge. It's not something that every recruiter is doing with this follow up. It's just to understand calling after something that the work's done, cost us money to do this, and that's very important. What does follow up mean to you? It means that when you do something for a client, you follow up and you ask them how it was. When you do something for a partner in your firm, it means you follow up and ask them how it was. If you do something for any type of legal work, you follow up. And again, this is something that very few people do. People often don't want to follow because they don't want your negative information. They don't often follow up because it's too much work. But your ability to continually follow up with people that you work for and do work for, and ask them about it and how it's going, and then you're seen and it looks like you care. Following up can give huge results. Several times a month, we make placement candidates that may have gotten lost in the shuffle by following up. So when you follow up, it can make a huge difference to you, and makes it look like you care about your work. Not a lot of people are doing that. And then the other thing good recruiter does, they help you learn from our mistakes. This isn't the most important thing, but people make mistakes in their legal career all the time. And you may have made a lot of mistakes in your legal career. Bad things happen to attorneys. Bad things are going to happen to you, by the way. The odds are, one of the things that I've noticed is almost every single attorney gets fired at some point in their career. It's not always your fault. Most of the time it's not. Like, you'll get fired because you're too senior and the firm doesn't have enough work. That you'll get fired because you did something wrong. Like the thing I wrote where I would almost let a prisoner out of jail. He was covered. You get fired for all sorts of reasons. You get fired because the right people don't like you. You'll get fired because of all this. Law firms, by the way, working are very difficult. You get fired for all sorts of reasons. And that's one of the reasons why, to the extent you can, you need to learn things personally about the people you're working for. They need to feel like there's some sort of connection, because if you don't do that, it's easier to fire you if you're not seen by the people that have things. So almost all attorneys get fired. I see it all the time. I talk to attorneys that have been fired, by the way, almost every single day. And they're all very shell-shocked. They're upset. They blame themselves. Or they're angry and they have problems, and they decide they'll never work in another law firm again. They'll never do this. And I'm going to tell you right now that I don't know what level of an attorney you are. There's some people that aren't attorneys, a lot of them, and there's other people, but most attorneys lose their jobs or have big problems, or something goes wrong. They can be brought up on charge of the state bar for doing something.
all sorts of things happen. I've seen attorneys become alcoholic and get fired from major law firms. I've seen people do all sorts of things that create major problems. So that if you're an attorney, you're going to have lots of bad things that potentially happen to you, and you're going to have to learn from these mistakes. And this is one of the things a recruiter does. But there's so many lessons to be had in your legal career. When things happen, there's so many lessons that you can learn, but you're going to have to learn from your mistakes, and you will make lots and lots of mistakes. Most people will do it. Some people don't. They just continually are able to do well, but most people make mistakes. And when you make those mistakes, they will hurt you and you won't do well. And let me tell you something else. So not only will you make mistakes, almost everyone does, by the way. They made crazy mistakes. And I've certainly made mistakes in my career, investing, and it's devastating. You make mistakes. Law firms, when you're interviewing, if you're unemployed or you made a mistake, it's going to be very difficult. I had something horrible happen. I remember placing an attorney at a big law firm in Madison, Wisconsin, and he was there for a week, and then some other firms saw him on the website, and they called up the firm, this is the patent attorney, and said he made this horrible patent mistake 2 years ago. The attorney was unemployed when they hired him, and so they fired him for his old mistake. Mistakes can follow you. You will make mistakes. I don't know how many way to say that, but people make mistakes, and people will go on interviews and make mistakes. People will do all sorts of things, and you will make mistakes. It's very serious for a lot of people. It's upsetting to them. You may have gotten a bad grade in class. I know my fiance was at Harvard, and she took this very difficult economics class, and she had an A- average and was doing well and wanted to go to law school and done well in the LSATs and everything. And then she took this economics class. It was very advanced, got like a D or something on it. Obviously, it's a big mistake. I mean, possible to go to law school. So people make mistakes. It's very hard. Taught 10 law school. We didn't make mistakes. And I see people every day that make mistakes. And I know that you probably made mistakes. Maybe you think you made a mistake where you went to law school. Maybe you think you made a mistake at a law firm. Maybe you think you made a mistake in an interview. Maybe you think, everybody has mistakes and they haunt them, because I know that every attorney is haunted by mistakes. You're probably haunted by mistakes. And so what is with the recruiter? A recruiter, obviously, when they take their candidate, they try to help them from that mistake. And a good recruiter, by the way, is no different than a lawyer. So this is actually very interesting. So when a good recruiter works with a candidate, that candidate will have things in their background that don't make them look like good fits for a law firm. So the recruiter will package them in a way and say things about them in a way that make them much more likely to get hired. And because of what they're doing, the way they package them without their mistakes, they will make the person look very good. And that's something that took my company from like one person working in my garage to 50 people at one point. Like, understanding how to package people in a way helps me grow and do well. So what does that mean if you're an attorney? So I want to be very clear about the skill of an attorney. So as an attorney, your clients will make mistakes. If you're representing someone that's getting sued, someone that's getting sued made a mistake. If you're representing a company in a transaction, someone may have made a mistake in the past. So what do you do if a company goes bankrupt? Every time you're representing someone, you have to help them. You have to get them out of a mistake. Or you have to prevent a mistake. As an attorney, you really have to not only learn from your mistakes, but you have to be able to help people. You have to be able to help people that you're representing learn from their mistakes. Everybody's making mistakes. And what do you do? By the way, this is just for your career. What do you do if you have made mistakes? What do you do? Like, how do you learn from your mistakes? One thing you can do, I was talking to this incredibly talented attorney like yesterday. He'd gone to the Harvard Law School. Went to Harvard for college and something else like Columbia for law school or whatever. And he'd worked at this incredible firm for 7 years and then had lost his job. And so I talked to this guy, and he knew that he'd lost his job because he made mistakes. Maybe it was the firm he chose. Maybe it was, not being business or whatever. So this guy, I got on this call with him, and he pretty much reviewed almost everything that I'd ever written to get himself in a position where he could do well at everything, but a lot of things I'd written and put himself in a position. Your ability to weather and not make mistakes is very important. And your ability to learn from your mistakes and to use things to not make mistakes. Best, and again, I'm not going to go too far into this, but the best people in almost every profession are putting themselves in a position where they can learn. You watching things like this is learning from mistakes. People get coaches, they get mentors, all sorts of things that help them learn from mistakes. And so this is just another issue, and this is recruiters do, and there's not a lot more left of this presentation, but as a recruiter, we have the resources to get people to a very wide variety of law firms, different places. And I've been doing this for 20 years, finding different firms and places where you can apply to. And again, this is relevant to you, but this is what we've been doing for 20 years. And the legal market is very large. It requires a lot of staff and a lot of resources to monitor what's going on in the market and to understand it. And at our company, we have over 100 researchers and additional legal recruiters. We're constantly looking to monitor the market and finding new firms. And we do this on mass scale. And we have the ability to use all of these resources to help the people that we're working for. And if a recruiter like us has more opportunities, then you're more likely to be placed in a good firm. And we do that for a variety of ways. So what does this mean for you specifically? What it means in your career is that in order for you to do well, you need to be drawing on a lot of resources to be as strong as you possibly can. Meaning, you need to get information from the best people. You need to use research, whatever thing you're doing, to get people out to benefit your clients in the best way you can. Not just the resources that are in front of you, but lots and lots of resources. And also, when you're searching for a job, a lot of people will search for a job just by going on to Indeed or Law Crossing or something, and using a lot of resources to find a job can drastically improve your career. When people are looking for jobs, I'm just amazed at how, and you may be doing the same thing, but how dumb people are when they're looking for a job. You may be looking for a job and you may think, wow, it's so hard to get interviews, this market isn't good, and all these sorts of things. And you may feel like there's something wrong with the legal market and whatever. And what does that mean? If you're searching for a job, you shouldn't be just looking on LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and Law Crossing and Indeed. Those are some resources, some resources that you can use to get a job. But what about other resources? What about things like the researching, going to law firm website and finding people that do what you do and sending them your resume right up? What about going to researching different associations and seeing if they have websites you can, all these different things that people never do. You can search Google for firms that do the kind of work you do. You can, if you're in Los Angeles, you can search firms outside of Los Angeles, in Orange County or San Diego, and do that. There's so many opportunities. There's in every market. If you want to be corporate attorney in Los Angeles, there's probably over 1,000 law firms that do that. And so people just look at a few. You have to be able to use resources to be successful as a recruiter. Very important. And you have to know how to do it. And this is just a little bit of conclusion about BCG and the value add, which I don't think is that important. But I think that in terms of this presentation, you have to be able to care about clients. You have to be able to care about your work. And that's going to make you much, much more successful. So we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, this is just talk about BCG. When we come back, we'll take a break for 2 minutes. We'll answer questions. So again, any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer about this. Just another quick note that questions are anonymous. If your name appears, I won't put your name. Your name is Sean. All that. So now for myself, getting lost in the sea of resumes and applications online, how do successful legal recruiters successfully showcase the unique skills and expertise to stand out with the crowd, rather than attention of hiring managers? So the best recruiters the quality of the presentation is important, meaning our presentations are color and pictures. And then the other thing is how is the application received? Sometimes the resumes will go into a field of other resumes. And so we do other things to make sure that the resume keeps being followed up on. So it's one of the things that's very interesting. When you submit a resume someplace online, that resume is just basically there and you hope something happens. When we submit a resume to a law firm, we do things like we send them a newsletter each week, and that newsletter has links in it that will allow them to go see all the resumes of people that are submitted. Then I typically will send like some sort of inspiration, like an article to the law firms with a write-up about, like I think this week I did something about the importance of an attorney being able to stay at their position long-term and sent that out. And so that was meeting someone that doesn't have a lot of jobs as a better candidate. So I did a write-up about that. The previous week, I did stuff about maybe can the attorney be managed. So every week, I stay in touch with the law firms, and then in turn with that, also reminding them of all of the candidates with a link for them to review the candidates that have been submitted there, and then we also do webinars for law firms as well. This is one way to be in touch and connect with the law firms on a consistent basis. If you have the ability to make sure that you're constantly seen. So that's one of the things that we do at BCG. And that every 2 weeks, actually, on Monday, we send a comprehensive report with all of the resumes and things that have been submitted. So that's the way that we do it. When you're trying to get a position, it often looks a little bit, it's offered to law firms. I hate to say it, but law firms often find it very annoying when people follow up. And to them, that makes them seem like they're not a good candidate. So it's like the law firm wants to be in charge of making the decision of bringing you in. So if the law firm sees that you're sending messages and things, and that, then they don't like that as much. One of the best ways of getting the attention of a law firm is doing things like sometimes you can actually go in and drop off the resume. That carries a lot of weight. You could have that in a envelope or something. That, to me, that's one way to stand out, is if you somehow do things like that. I used to have a company, and I really wish I was operating it right now. It was called Legal Authority, and it still has a website up, but we're not doing the service anymore. But what that company would do is they would print up your resume. They would redo your resume, read your cover letter, and then they would prepare letters to go out to law firms at different geographic areas, highlighting whatever regions you want to work in, basically to hiring people, telling them you wanted to work there. And it was a letter as opposed to just an email. And my advice always is send a letter, because I know when to send a letter. So if you send a letter in an envelope, that's going to make a massive difference in terms of your ability to get a position, because no one else is sending letters. And if you're sending letters, you're going to stick out. People like it. People also like it, by the way, when you walked into the office. And I remember I was in a Malibu in an office. I had this law firm that just did a lot of our work, and it was called Harrison Barnes Law Firm. But in the whole 10 years that I operated this law firm, only 2 people walked in to hand me the resume. One of them I hired, and it was not a good hire, but it was the person that walked in was the one that got the job. But your ability to do that is important. So here. Okay, so next question is about working with recruiters. I've heard mixed opinions of whether it's beneficial to work exclusively with one recruiter or to engage with multiple recruiters simultaneously. What are the pros and cons of each approach, and how can I determine which option is best suited to my job search needs? Okay, so it's up to you if you work with more than one recruiter. Recruiters they're salespeople, so they're often very threatened if you work with more than one person. What are the benefits of working with more than one recruiter? If you work with more than one recruiter, that particular recruiter may have contact for people that like them inside of law firms that the other recruiters doesn't have. There's a lot of hiring. Hiring is based on your qualifications and so forth, but a lot of it is also based on relationships you may have with firms. So the firms that you've had the best relationships with are often the ones most likely, the firm the recruiter says, are also more likely to hire people from them. So the pros and cons are a good recruiter with a certain relationship with a firm may be better than one that's not. So, that's if a recruiter tells you they made a bunch of placements at a certain firm, then there's probably a relationship there. And so that can sometimes help you, but not a lot. The issue with law firms in hiring is generally they'll look at your resume and they'll say, does this person have the qualifications? Did they look like someone that we'd want to hire? That's pretty much it. And that's usually what controls it. But if a recruiter is working on a search for a law firm, sometimes When you're called by a recruiter and the recruiter says, I'm working on the search, and it's like a law firm, say you haven't heard a lot from, or the one they may be making a lot of placements at, then that may often be a place where, that's good for you in terms of you can get a job at. But I guess that's a long-winded answer. But if you work with a recruiter, it's not, I don't get offended when someone tells me they're working with a recruiter, because my job is to basically present as many opportunities to that person as possible. And I know that most recruiters aren't doing that. But again, working with a recruiter that has a certain relationship with a firm, that has made a lot of placements there. And generally those firms, by the way, if it's like a large AmLaw and other law firm, it matters a little bit, but those firms just know what they want, and they're less attached to one recruiter than not. So there's that. And then, so I guess that's a long-winded answer of telling you that the best results from working with a recruiter are probably going to be when you're not at a top firm, you're at a smaller firm, you're insurance defense, or you're at a firm, or they're calling you about a firm like a boutique firm we've never heard of. These people, those are usually the best reasons to work with a recruiter. Work with one recruiter, and then on that job, you make the search specific to a job as opposed to your entire search of a different market. The next question. I hear some that are really strange. During their initial conversation, it's more interested in my personal life and my professional qualification. Is this normal practice in the industry? I should be aware of recruiters' statutory resources. Yeah, I think a recruiter's job is to try to connect with you on some level. I don't know that all this personal information is really that important. Most of the time, they want to know about your professional qualifications. Sometimes knowing about things like your family, if you have children, and those sorts of things are actually useful to know, because law firms do prefer people a lot of times children, because it means you have to work, which is good. That's one thing. But yeah, recruiters, if they're asking too many personal questions and you feel uncomfortable, then you shouldn't work with them. That's as simple as that. And it's not normally industry. Most recruiters are they're very cut and dry. They just want to get you out to a firm that has an opening to make a life. Okay, so this is interesting. So this person says, here's a question. In my experience, some recruiters seem to prioritize quantity over quality when it comes to the work they produce for job seekers. How can I identify in selecting a recruiter generally prioritize crafted, tailored, high quality materials to rate? So that's a good question. Sometimes a recruiter, and I'm a recruiter at a recruiting firm, in order to get you a position, they have to create a market for you. So there's not always, if you're trying to get a position in a certain market, there may not always be a lot of openings, that they may need to contact a lot of firms. That's actually very good, because they're trying to find places that will hire you. And if they're able to find places that are hiring, they're going to often do far better than if you try to find places that won't hire you. So getting you out into the market is actually very important. If a recruiter is able to do that, and they believe they can do that, then most recruiters can't. That's actually very good. Most recruiters, by the way, will only introduce you to firms that have openings. So if a recruiter is able to introduce you to firms that have openings, that can be very useful, but it often requires quantity. So identifying recruiters that will produce high quality work product and do that sort of thing. I've been in this business again for 25 years. When I started the business, I would sit down and write like a 5 or 6 page letter about my candidates. I got so excited about them, and send those to law firms, or sometimes they were like 10 or 12 page letters, because I was really passionate about it, and would do something like that. And it worked. People's jobs, incredibly effective. And then I would hire recruiters, and they never would do it. And then if I didn't watch them very closely, then the work product would fail. So the person that you work with as a recruiter needs to really care about what they do. It's very rare to find someone that's producing high quality work product, because recruiters are salespeople, and unfortunately, and a lot of them believe that the most important thing is just getting your resume and getting you out there. That's the job. And you can find recruiters that are really good and do that, but most of the time, you're not going to find ones that will do that, which I would say is problematical. What do you do? A lot of times you can apply to those same firms on your own if you want to produce a really good work product. And if that's what you want to do, for a lot of people, that would be actually more effective than using a recruiter, unless the recruiter has a really good relationship with the firm and believes that they can use that to get you right. Okay, let me see. This is actually a good question. So this person says, why do you focus exclusively on big law attorneys, even though they represent about 5% of all attorneys and not smaller law firms? Do you find turnover is much less in smaller law firms? And there are other reasons there too. No, actually, I don't focus exclusively on big law attorneys. I think that there are on BCG right now, there's 25,000 active candidates that we've been working with for years and however long. And I would say that 95% of them are big law attorneys. The big law attorneys they're a very small percentage of what we represent, because most of the activity is in smaller firms. It's in insurance defense, it's in personal injury, whatever. It's not trademark, trust and estates. That's where most of the activity is. No, I don't focus exclusively on big law attorneys. And I think it's incredibly pompous that a lot of recruiting firms will do nothing but that. I think the commissions are larger because they're larger firms, but no, we don't focus exclusively on big law attorneys. And it's the exact opposite. It's not something that we do. It's better. I think it's much better for us to focus exclusively on smaller law firms. Yeah, next question. So I'm glad that you asked that. This is just not true. In the current comment, what specialties of law are hurt? Least new hires, and which are the most resilient? At least that. Yeah. So in LA, so the most active practice areas are always going to be litigation, and it could be commercial, insurance, et cetera. But those practice areas are active, and then some other ones that they're doing really well are what else? Personal injury, trust and estates, immigration can do okay depending on the economic climate. There's many Democratic good. It's like good. Let me pull up a few more of these practice areas that are actually a good question. I'm just pulling up a database where I can show you different practice areas. Let me see, you can search. This is just an example. I'll show you. Just like go over some practice areas for you, because this is actually a very good question. You need to ask it about Los Angeles. So practice areas. So candidate search, practice area. Here we go, probably a practice area. Okay, so what practice areas are good in LA? So anything you ever do when you try to go into a niche practice area, it's always very risky. Like antitrust, kind of bankruptcy can be risky because they're just very niche practice areas. But construction is a very good practice area. There is always a demand in that. Construction is broken down by things like construction litigation for plaintiffs, defendants, construction defect, construction. We just have all these different construction. Construction is always a great practice area. There's just, whatever the economic climate, it's good in LA. It's actually even better in Orange County. But yeah, anything to do with construction is a great practice area. Very few people think about it and go into it. But when you're in construction, you can almost always get jobs regardless of the economic climate. And even when you get senior, you can get jobs in construction. Corporate is not a good practice area when the economy's not doing well. Sometimes M&A can do okay when the economy's not doing well, but securities is always bad. General corporate is always bad. Corporate attorneys have not been getting jobs and interviews for a couple of years. It's just been very slow. Very difficult practice area when the economy's slow. When the economy is good, corporate attorneys are like rock stars. Like everybody wants them. And when the economy's not good, it's the exact opposite. Very scary practice area to go into if you're a law student or a new attorney, a current attorney. It's just very risky. You can become very successful in it. There's your attorney to bill over $2,000 an hour, but it's very risky for new attorneys to go into. Data privacy is not a good practice area. Everyone goes into it. There's used to be opportunities, but I don't think anybody's getting interviews. Education is always a good practice area, but it's also very niche. So there's not a lot of firms that do it. But if you do that, that's another practice area that does well in all economic climates, but there's just not a lot of opportunity. Entertainment and media is always a very difficult practice area. It's very difficult to get jobs. The pay is not very good, very risky. Environmental is good. ERISA, I'll just talk about the big ones. Family law is very good. You can always do well doing that. Finance is just like corporate. It's very difficult. Guardianship and service. Healthcare is always very good. That's a great practice area because it's such a big part of the economy. Immigration's good. Insurance is always good. Insurance coverage is great. Any form of insurance defense, plaintiffs is great. These are practice areas where you can always be employed. Intellectual property is not good. It used to be patent was very active, and right now trademark is in demand for some reason, but trademark is usually not in demand. Patent and IP litigation, very difficult practice area. It was very hot in the 2000s, and then 2000 people were doing IP litigation, but it's a very difficult practice area right now. And it's not something anybody should go on with the exception of trademark, unless you have some sort of background in it. Labor employment is always good. That's a great practice area in LA. It's good for plaintiffs. It's good for labor law. Labor law is more niche, but it's good for wage and hour. These are all great practice areas to be in. If you want to be going to labor employment, you're in good shape. Litigation, pretty much most forms of litigation do well. There's a lot of stuff going on here, like workers' comp's very good. White collar is very difficult. Trust in the state is good. Securities is good. Real estate, product liability, mass torts, plaintiff and defense, healthcare, criminal law, all these are good things to go into. It's litigation. If you're an existing attorney, it's very good medical malpractice. Every form of litigation is smart to go into. The only thing I would say to you about litigation is if you want to go into commercial litigation, we work in a big firm and you have to have very good qualifications, best law schools, things like that. So that can limit you to some extent, but most firms in litigation are good. Municipal law is good, but there's not a lot of firms to do it. Real estate is another practice area that can do very well, but it's also dependent on the economy. Like now there's a lot of people aren't buying commercial buildings and stuff, so it's dangerous. Tax is very dangerous. Real estate right now is not the best practice area to be into. Real estate traditionally also, by the way, does well when interest rates are low, and then when it's high, there's less activity. Tax is a very risky practice area. If I were an attorney, advising an attorney, thinking about what they want to do in their career, I think tax is probably the riskiest practice area you could possibly go into, because tax attorneys work with attorneys they work with the back end and like M&A and things like that. If you're a transactional tax attorney, there are a few things that can do well. Controversy is interesting because there's a lot of work that you can do that doesn't involve, that you can litigate and stuff, which is fun. And sometimes you can do that at smaller firms. But almost state and local tax can be good. There's a whole community about that. But in general, it's very difficult for tax attorneys to get jobs. You have to have an LLM usually. Telecommunications, trust in the states is awesome. So right now, the practice areas are on fire. Most people that do trust in the states are getting jobs and sometimes multiple offers. I've had things happen where my candidate gets an offer and then they just have 2 or 3 other offers that they've gotten. And they just stop responding to me. I've never had that happen. Trust in the states is hot. It's hot all over the country. There's just lots of jobs and opportunity for trust in the states attorneys. And then finally, workers' comp is a great practice area. The money that you make in workers' comp isn't as much, but it's an awesome practice area. That's one that I recommend as well. Let me just make sure I pull up the right document, get more questions. Yeah, these are good questions about practice area. I'd love to do a long presentation about practice areas at some point. I don't know whether it would be interesting for a lot of people, but there's definitely a lot you can talk about when it comes to practice areas. In my past job search, I made a few mistakes that may have affected my chance with certain firms. How can I leave a recruiter system in minor mistakes and positioning myself for future opportunities? If you made mistakes in your last job search, I wouldn't take it too seriously. A legal recruiter can often, if they have exclusive opportunities, they can package you for those. They help you learning, and they can help you learn from those mistakes by things that you can do better in your job search in the future and how you can package your resume. But a recruiter, name about recruiters, and it's not anything that you need to take too seriously. But recruiters are salespeople. Most of them, it's a sales type job. They're looking for the best product. And if they don't have a good product to market, they're going to try to find one. Recruiters will look at you and they will either think that you're a good product or not a good product. I look at everyone and I see the opportunity, and I represent a lot of people, but a lot of recruiters don't. You also have to look at a good product, because recruiters, keep in mind, there's 1.6 million attorneys in the United States, and there's not a lot of as many recruiters. So recruiters are just looking for the best product, and most recruiters are not going to be able to help you, most of them, unless you look like a good product to them. I don't know how to say that. And the other thing too is if you're worried about looking good to certain firms, the market for places you can work is just astronomical. There's
There's tens of thousands of law firms. Not getting into a certain law firm isn't really something you should worry about. I mean, you should find a place that likes you. And a recruiter can't fix that. A recruiter is going to take you to get you in the best places that they can. Okay, I think that's the last question. And thank you for the questions. And I think this is a very good webinar. And I hope that everyone really got the message. The main message here is that whatever you do, representing clients, working for people, you have to really care about what you're doing. And if you don't see yourself ever caring or being a lawyer representing people, then you're not going to ever do anywhere nearly as well as you should. My hope for you is that this will all that you will learn from this and do much better in your career, which I really hope you do. Thank you, everyone, and I will be back next week.